Don't take your chances and you get punished. It's as simple as that. It's a football cliche as old as time, but it is a cliche for a reason because it is true. And that is exactly what happened to Tottenham last night. Sloppy finishing, sloppy defending at times, and some sloppy overall play, not taking enough control of the game in the decisive moments was the reason why Spurs let that lead slip against Roma. Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. We're going to break the Roma game down from last night. Apologies, this is a little bit late. Spurs took a while to put the game on Spurs play, the full 90, so it's just coming to you now. We're going to talk about the chances that we wasted, the problems that Roma caused us in terms of switching the ball out to the flanks, overloading the back post defending an issue again for Spurs in the game last night. It's been an issue and a common thread throughout the season, but there were lots of positives to take from last night in terms of some of the performance as well. And look, I don't think the result is the end of the world. Roma was probably the toughest home game in the group, or certainly the toughest, and I know they've not been in form, but, you know, they are a side with a new manager bounce with some real individual quality, and we saw that last night. So the result is not a disgrace, and the way it happened isn't a disgrace either, but it's just incredibly frustrating. Of course, this is how Spurs set up last night. A couple of changes from the predicted 11 that we made on stream yesterday. He went very strong. Kulusevski came into that number 10 position after starting at right wing on the weekend. We're going to talk about the Fulham game tomorrow and what he might do there. Brennan Johnson, Solanke, Son, the front three that we've kind of seen throughout most of the season. Bentancur and Sarr in the midfield, but it was the back four that we pretty much expected, I would say. Roma went with a back three, which I don't think we necessarily expected, but it was quite hard to obviously put together thoughts on what Roma might do, considering Ranieri's only managed one game. Mancini, Hummels and Ndicka was the back three, and I thought Mats Hummels played really, really well. Obviously got the goal at the end of the game, and we'll talk about him shortly. But when you look at the stats, I think it's quite revealing and quite reflects accurately kind of what happened in the game last night, especially when you look at the momentum bar, which I want to come back to. When you look at the fact that Spurs created 3.74 XG last night and had 5 big chances, we just weren't clinical enough in front of goal. And look, Roma deserved something from the game. We could have blown them away. We absolutely could have blown them away and should have blown them away, but they had the ball in the back of the net 3 times for offside. They had their chances, and it felt really as if that goal was coming. But Spurs got punished for not taking theirs. And I wanted to start here because, I mean, this is kind of the only real place to start. This was 2 minutes into the start of the second half. Dominic Solanke here. Spurs get a 4v2 situation. And I kind of want to work backwards with this move and talk about how it came about after. But this was just really, really poor and really sloppy. And look, it wasn't near the end of the game and they went up and scored up the other end immediately. And we had other chances after this to kill it off. But this one really frustrated me because Dom Solanke, I think, has been excellent for Spurs so far this season. And I think his decision-making in the final third has largely been pretty good. But this, he just clearly makes the wrong decision there. And you just cannot allow 4v2 situations like this with the runners that Spurs have got in this situation to be passed up. We had to score from this situation. I think he just picks the complete wrong option. If that's Brennan Johnson in that situation on the right-hand side, I think you pass to Johnson every single time because he's got that burst of pace to get away from Ndicka. He can just carry on running in a straight line on his right foot, whereas Decky has to come inside there. And look, that pass has completely shut off basically any chance of Spurs scoring a goal. Look, Decky can finish with his right foot 100%, and maybe he needs to be a bit better himself in this situation. But if you go out left here, play the ball into space for Sonny to run onto, he's got the pace to get, you know, to kind of knock it past Hummels, or certainly the pace to get past Hummels in the first place. Sarr as well, and then you can probably roll it back across the goal for Kulusevski to score at the back post, or cut it back for Solanke to get back on the end of his own move. Johnson probably enters the play at that point as well if we don't slow it down. He has to wait then on the on the edge of the box if it does come back, and that's what happens, and he blazes it over the bar. But that was just really, really frustrating because this one won't really go down as a big chance that we missed on the numbers or in terms of XG because we didn't really get, you know, obviously Kulusevski gets a shot away here, but it's not on target and, you know, it ends up, you know, this is a massive chance basically for us to score and we should have made more of it. But I want to talk about how it came about and why there were warning signs from this moment about what might happen in the second half. So one thing we've spoken about quite a lot is Spurs' back post defending. Now, there was a lot of... Roma were very keen with the wing-backs that they had to switch the play. El Shaarawy and Dybala. Obviously, Dybala came off at half-time and Sula came on. I thought Sula did quite well in that second half. And Dybala was great, and we'll talk about him. But with those two number 10s behind Dovbyk kind of coming inside, they were getting the width from Angelino, they were getting the width from Zelik, and it was causing us problems at the back post. And you look here for the start of this move, if I just hide my camera, El Shaarawy switches it out to Zelik here. Little knockback. If I just actually just bring this into the frame a little bit better. There we go. Little knockback down from Zelik to, I think, Mancini arriving here, or is that Paredes, to come back out to Sula. And again, they tried to get the cross in. But this time, Bentancur is able to get his foot in there. Sarr gets a little toe poke, and then Spurs can get away. But I think if we go back, there were warning signs of how they might be able to hurt us when you look at the space at the back post here for Angelino, and you look at the ability in which they were able to switch the play quite easily on multiple occasions there. That was what cost us, with us being a bit too narrow. But eventually, third time lucky, after kind of camping in and getting out of that situation. Spurs do get out, but again, we have to score. This is Spurs' first goal, the penalty. This was excellent from Spurs. Really, really good. This is exactly what we are trying to do under Ange. This was kind of Ange ball personified here, really. Lovely football. Forster, we'll talk about him a little bit more later. Ball to feet, back to Forster, back out to Davis. Lovely little ball to Son. And again here, you look at Gray's position, kind of as that inverted left back, distracting Mancini, taking him deeper. Son, lovely little touch here to get in between. I think that's Paredes and Mancini. He's fouled, but Solanke drops in and picks it up. I love this from Dom. We've seen it so many times. Kulu kind of in that advanced 10 position with that free roll. I think he had a lot of freedom last night. Bumps it into him. And Kulusevski, look what he does here to, I think, El Shaarawy. Just bumps him off. And again, out to Johnson. The inverted kind of underlapping run from Porro. Lovely way to pass from Johnson. Cut back and back to Sarr. And it's a penalty. I'm not quite sure how the referee didn't give it in real time. But Son converts it really, really well. Obviously, Roma's goal, they equalise. And they had a real good spell after this. Again, kind of if you look at the momentum bar, before they got their goal, it was coming, and they had the goal disallowed after as well. They were sort of pinning us back. We couldn't really get out. They were stopping us, not necessarily in their press, but that's something I want to talk about a little bit later. It's a good cross, and it's a good header. I don't think there's much to overanalyze from this, to be honest. I mean, Ange was asked about the set-piece goals in the press conference, and he said, well, I think we've conceded 3 in 20. I don't think this was a defensively structural issue. I think it's a good ball and a good header. Could Fraser Forster do better? I think I'd be being a little bit harsh if I'm being honest. But they had the disallowed goal after that with El Shaarawy as well. Spurs held the line well for that one, just as they did with the other 2 disallowed goals as well. But obviously, it indicated that they were providing a real threat. This is one thing that I noticed a lot with Solanke yesterday. This was the big chance for Dybala. And I think Solanke, like I said earlier, has been excellent. I don't think you'll find a bigger banger of the Solanke drum than me. But yesterday, he just looked physically off it a little bit, and I think those are the minutes that are catching up with him. I've not seen a centre-back, I don't think, deal with Solanke as well this season as I have with Mats Hummels. I thought Hummels was largely pretty excellent. And this is the chance for Dybala. And again, I've not seen many centre-backs be able to do this to Dom. Again, Fraser Forster having the confidence to just roll it out. Spurs play out. Comes back to Bentancur here. Again, Solanke drops in with the runners in behind him. You look at Sarr, and that's Kulusevski there. They're happy for Solanke to drop deep because we have got the runners committed up the pitch. But Hummels follows him and he nabs it off of him. Lovely tackle. And look, Roma didn't hurt us in their press. They didn't press us high. But they were backing Hummels or a midfielder to kind of step up and win those duels just inside of our half with Solanke, and it did work. I haven't seen a centre-back defend that well against Solanke this season, like I said. And when you think of the quality of someone like Dybala, who is able to just sort of sit off, not really press, but pick up those second balls and then kind of create from this type of situation, it really worked for them. They broke our game up in the middle rather than in the press. And you can't afford to be kind of this complacent, really, in these European games, even against a team on a poor run like Roma, because they have got the new manager bounce, like I said earlier, and the quality to hurt you, and it really felt like we were rocking during this period. And Dybala nearly scores here, kind of sucks all the players onto him and gets a shot away. But it's a really, really good save from Forster. But then we got a grip of the game, and I think this was the turning point here. You can see Pat Matar, how many times has he done this for Spurs? Just nip in and win that ball back, aggressive out of possession. I think this was definitely the turning point for Tottenham. Gets in there, nicks it ahead of Kone. And again, I like the confidence here from Sarr to drive and get the shot off himself. And again, if you go back to the kind of the momentum bar here, this was definitely the moment that it changed, like around the sort of 28th minute or so. You see that little green spike there about 5 minutes or so before the goal. And I think this was the real catalyst for Spurs to get a grip of the game in and out of possession. We improved so much and dominated that second half after this moment. Like I said, I love the confidence here from Sarr to drive. But I think Sonny's got to do more there to kind of bust the gut and give him an option with, Mancini I think that's Mancini there. Tries to get across to block the shot, but I think Son just kind of lets him go and leaves him to it. I think he's got to bust a gut there to get outside of him. If I'm being harsh, maybe I am being harsh, but I think that's one thing with Sarr's game is the technical quality. I think has improved a lot, and I like the fact that he backs himself to go and drive and shoot in these situations. But we really got a grip of the game after this. We had him penned in. We started to hoover up all of the second balls. I thought Bentancur was great at that. It was a really, really good period at the end of the second half, again, as you can kind of see here, with all that green, lovely green there for Spurs. This is the goal. Excellent goal. And again, Sarr at the heart of it. Again, great ball from him over the top. Decky with that kind of free roll just peels off into the left channel, stands up Hummels, and that is literally a perfect cutback for Brennan Johnson. And I made a TikTok video yesterday talking about Brennan Johnson. I posted it on Twitter, so you might have seen it as well, about Raheem Sterling. And he said in an interview himself that he has looked at a lot of what Raheem Sterling did at Manchester City, kind of being that penalty box predator coming in from out wide. And one thing, obviously, we've seen that so many times with Johnson, just those back post kind of tap-ins. But that anticipation of where to be, it's literally it's a perfect cutback from Decky. But again, the aggressiveness from Johnson to get into the right position. And one thing I've noticed definitely with Johnson this season with his finishing, I think we saw it at Brighton, that ability to finish her first time, the finish against Brentford as well, where he shifts it and shoots. I think his finishing has gone up another level this season. He's not duffing as many shots. This was such a crisp, clean contact, and it was such a crisp, clean move, just straight into the bottom corner. It was a lovely goal. And I think, look, Johnson has his limitations, but in these scenarios, he's absolutely excellent. And I think you can see him getting more confident. I do think we need another winger that is able to create and do more on his own. But when Spurs are transitional, look, there aren't many other wingers that you'd want in the Premier League or in world football to be able to get on the end of that kind of move than Brennan Johnson. Superb from him. And again, Spurs just put their foot on the throat after this and should have made them pay. Really should have made them pay. This was literally a minute later, should be 3-1. Again, I want to talk about Ben Davies and his passing ability out from the back. I think he's got a really underrated ability to break lines, a good variety to his passing as well. Decky, again, peeling off the midfielder there. If I just move this across slightly, again, you can see Kone doesn't know whether to go with him, just loses him completely, picks up the ball in that channel. Really unlucky here, hits the post, and again, it could fall to Johnson, it could fall to Solanke, it just doesn't quite. It falls back to Son, who just doesn't show enough composure there, blazes it over. And then, again, a few minutes later, another chance. I want to talk about Fraser Forster here, if I just move this across. Because, again, Ange spoke about this in terms of goalkeepers playing out from the back. If I just hide myself to show you this move. Just need to keep it simple, It doesn't need to be playing Hollywood balls. Just needs to keep it simple. And when Spurs kind of get this sort of move right, I'll play it through in a sec, but you guys will know what I'm talking about. The little ball into the 6, the bump pass back to the centre back, out to the right winger, the little bump pass back inside to the 10 or the striker, and we can move from there. This is exactly what Spurs did here. We didn't execute it perfectly, but it was near perfect. And I think teams really struggle to stop it because we've got rotation in terms of who drops into that 6. It might be Bentancur, it might be Sarr, it might be Maddison at points as well. Sarr did it a lot against Man City, but Forster just kind of bumps the ball into Sarr here, out to Dragusin. And again, how many times have you seen this move with Spurs? This all ends in a chance. Reminded me of the goal that we scored against Man City. Dragusin out to Johnson, peels in off that right-hand side. He tries that little bump pass first time into Solanke, but he kind of duffs it a little bit, gets it wrong. But Solanke there, as he does a lot, hoovers up the second ball and drives and does really well. You can see Kulusevski, runner coming into the move. He does really well, Dom, and just waits for Johnson to get round the outside of him here. And again, you look at Kulusevski here in terms of the space that he's been able to get into from just being that direct runner. Solanke, poor pass here from Johnson, intercepted by Hummels, but again, does really well to win it back. And it ends up with a chance for Spurs. Kulusevski dances twinkle toes on the edge of the box. Spurs recycle it. Porro has the shot blocked. It falls to Son here, who has a good shot saved. A few minutes later, this was poor decision-making, I think, for me from Son. And look, I've criticised Solanke for his poor decision-making in this game, but I think Son was a culprit of it as well. I like the fact that Son was really aggressive, kind of driving in from the line. Again, I think we're seeing a lot of similar patterns to what we saw last season with Sonny staying wider, Gray inverting there, taking Mancini with him, opening up the space for Decky here. And Son, little 1-2, good pass into him. Decky just lays it off. They draw Hummels out, and again, there's the space. They're sitting in deep, but they know they've got to come out and commit and get tight to someone like Decky. It doesn't work. Son bursts into the space here, and how many times have you seen Son in this situation just finish it? You could see Sonny scoring here with your eyes closed, and you open them and Spurs are walking back to the halfway line because we just scored. But I just thought he dilly-dallied on it a little bit too much, forced himself down a blind alley. And again, I just come back to that decision-making. I just thought it was poor. Good effort, though, from Decky. Nicely shifts it out of his feet and curls it wide. I thought he was really kind of playing in that flow state in that first half. After kind of the 25, 30-minute mark, I thought he was absolutely superb, Decky. Engine is a joke. I didn't think he looked after the ball great in the second half. I thought he kind of dropped off a little bit. And I thought he had some moments where we were on transition and he just couldn't quite get his shot out of his feet, or his shot was a little bit powder puff. But again, I do think I am a bit worried about him and Dom in terms of the their engines. I mean, they've both got incredible engines, but I think they might be running on empty a little bit here. But again, moving on to the second half, and again, if I go back to the momentum bar here, Roma started well. They kind of dictated those first 15 minutes. They got those two disallowed goals, and I think it was this was maybe the first one. And it comes from a big switch of play, us being a little bit too narrow, us being a little bit kind of too open on those transitional situations. And, teams kind of playing a five at the back this season with wing-backs might look at this. Amorim might look at this with Manchester United. I know they've kind of been playing with the inverted wing-backs with the right footer also the left footer on the right-hand side and the right foot on the left-hand side. So they're not going to be as aggressive just running in straight lines like someone like an Angelino and someone like a Selic last night. But again, they were able to switch it. And again, you look at the back post here. Angelino free, but this is the one that comes through to Dovbyk, and it's disallowed. This was the one after. This was the second disallowed goal that was a bit tighter. But again, Spurs do hold the line defensively well. But again, I am worried looking at that back post and the ability to switch the play. This is the Angelino chance. Again, look at the back post here. I don't think Johnson's kind of out the picture. I don't think our wingers do enough to track back and help out their fullback. Angelino shot blocked, hits the bar. But again, just a bit like the first half, we kind of rode the storm and then controlled the game. I thought we controlled the game between kind of the 70th minute and the 80th minute, or the 65th minute maybe in the 80th minute. I think Basuma coming on and his presence had a lot to do with that. I thought he was so composed. And I think that's one thing that Spurs don't... Not enough Spurs players kind of show that composure in and out of possession when holding on to a lead, as well as someone like Yves Basuma does in terms of his ability to just put his foot on the ball and slow things down. Again, here draws Kone close into him, just bumps him off, plays forward. And here, talk about Dom Solanke and the decision-making. Lovely little pass from Son into Maddison. I think he's got to get his head up and pass back to Maddison there. You can understand as a striker why he wants to get the shot off, but again, these aren't massive chances, but that should be a goal. That just should be a goal for Spurs. So frustrating. And yeah, I just think that, like I said, if you go back and look at this, I think we did well to slow the game down for the most part in those kind of last 15 minutes, kind of before added time. Or maybe the last, or maybe sort of the 70th to 80th minute, right? I think Basuma's presence had a lot to do with that. But then, last 5-10 minutes, really, in terms of added time and normal time, it was coming. Forster makes a great save from the corner before this. Gets headed out. I just don't think we don't show enough composure. I don't really know what Basuma's doing here, if I'm being honest. He's kind of playing everybody on side, but not really engaging to try and block the shot. And they score, and they deserved it. Wasted chances, lack of composure at times, and our inability to hold on to a lead is, frustrating. It's happened many times this season. It feels like we've really got to blow teams away, and we should have done that last night. We should have blown Roma away before we even got to that point, like we did to Aston Villa, like we've done to other teams, West Ham as well. Like, we had the game there to just take it away from them. We should have been 4-1 up at half-time with the chances that we did have towards the end of that second half. And unfortunately, it wasn't Aston Villa 2.0. It wasn't West Ham 2.0. It was more, well, not like a Brighton, but again, we weren't able to hold on to the lead, which was frustrating. But look, we move on to Fulham. The preview will be out tomorrow for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, as always, and make sure to like the video and subscribe if you are new. Up the Spurs.